Wythe, we have a rules of procedure you want.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I previously circulated proposed rules of procedure for our board meetings. These were drafted and went through council review, edits, suggestions, and so forth. These procedural suggestions for adoption comply with the Code of Virginia and best practices used in and around the Commonwealth of Virginia. They provide general and accepted guardrails as to how we conduct our business. I would say the way we've operated for many years is closely reflected in these procedural rules, but some important language is included that protects the integrity of our process and the meetings, and the various legal requirements we have. So respectfully, I submit that for your consideration and adoption today, but I'm happy to answer any specific questions, comments you might have about them, or if there's anything that, needs attention.
Mr. Chairman, I move the Joint Industrial Development Authority adopt the rules and procedures dated January 22nd, 26 as presented. Take effect immediately.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Do we need a voice vote?
Just ayes and nays is fine, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No opposed. We thank you. Any other comments you need for that?
Nobody signed up for citizens time today, Mr. Chairman, so, we can just proceed.
All right. You have the minutes of, from December the 2nd. Are there any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the minutes as presented, the minutes of the December 2nd, 2025 meeting.
Second.
And we have a motion and a second. By voice vote, all in favor say
Aye.
Aye.
aye. We thank you for that. And on the financial reports and the invoices, any comments or additions we need to add?
Mr. Chairman, I'll just say that as treasurer, I have reviewed those and did not find anything outstanding or that needed to, be discussed at the board at this meeting.
We have a motion
I move we accept the financials as presented.
and we have a second too.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say by voice vote, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay. Next on our agenda, we have the, fiscal year 24-25 audit presentation.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to introduce Corbin Stone. Corbin is a long-time auditor. I'm not gonna estimate as to how many years, but he's been doing it for our organization since long before I joined. But I think he must have started very young. He was with Robinson Farmer Cox Associates, and he and his group have, they audit lots of public entities all over the Commonwealth. And Corbin is here to discuss our annual audit from this past fiscal year.
Well, thanks for having me. I think you all have a copy of the audit report itself. I think that came out in your packets. I also have the cliff notes to the audit, which is a one-page document that has some numbers on it that I've passed out, should be in front of you. And of course, our letters to those charged with governance. The first thing I'll tell you is you did receive an unqualified or unmodified opinion on your financial statements, which means we believe they are materially correct. You also received a clean government auditing standards opinion, which means we believe you have good controls in place to maintain accurate financial information. You do have a letter that says to those charged with governance at the top, and that's a letter that if we had problems during the audit, we would report them to you in that letter. Even though you might receive an unqualified opinion, we may still have had issues. We did not. That letter also gives you some information about major estimates of financial statements, such as pension liabilities, depreciable asset lives, things of that nature, that they are estimates. We ultimately don't know how long someone is gonna be on the pension and how long you're gonna have to make payments into VRS, or what ultimately the total payments will be to VRS to cover their pensions. VRS estimates when people are gonna retire, how long they're gonna stay in the pension plan, and, you know, the actual results will vary from what they have. Other than that, you really just have the boilerplate letter, from us. The other thing I have, and I'll kind of go over this one-page document that has numbers on it. hopefully everybody has a copy of that. And at the top, I have a summary statement of that position going back 9 years. And that's just all the assets of the organization, which ended the year at, just under $1.6 million. The deferred outflows, you see that, you also see deferred inflows under liabilities. I'll explain those in just a second. Liabilities of the organization ended the year at $613,000. Of course, you took out a loan, I believe for a building purchase during the year, if memory serves. So that increased your liabilities, but of course your assets increased as well as your capital assets increased. Net position at the end of the year was $975,000. The deferred inflows and outflows, they use some smoothing techniques for pension liabilities, and those liabilities kind of get adjusted, I guess investment income to the extent it's above the estimated range or estimated interest rate that they've projected, that gets amortized in over 5 years, so you don't have these big jumps in your liability. So your deferred inflows or deferred outflows were $54,000, your deferred inflows were $57,000, and they're gonna kind of flush through that pension liability over the next few years. Those numbers always be there, but they will gradually change. Unrestricted net position ended the year at $134,000, down slightly from last year of $139,000. And I will tell you, we had a change in accounting standards this year where we had to record additional amounts for accrued leave, and that could be vacation, sick, any comp time or anything like that. Under the old standard, we only recorded what was gonna be paid out. So if someone left employment, we recorded a liability for what was gonna be paid out. Under the new standard, we have to record an estimate for our liability for what not only you're gonna pay out, but what you expect people to use before they leave employment. So sick leave in a lot of cases wouldn't get paid out if someone left, but they might use it. So we have to estimate how much of that's gonna be used. Long story short, that increased your liabilities by about $22,000. So we had a restatement in that position from last year to decrease it by about $22,000. So when you see that increase in that position overall, factor that $22,000 in. We didn't restate prior financial statements, so if you took net position from last year plus the change in net position below, you wouldn't come back to the ending net position because of that restatement. But overall, the financial statements look good. Like I said, unrestricted net position, $134,000. Restricted and net investment in capital assets is $841,000. That includes your revolving loan fund money and receivables. And it also includes your capital assets less any outstanding debt against those capital assets. And that's really it. Like I said, the audit went very well. I told David that Jessica's turning into an accountant, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But she's getting better. She's learning as she goes on and has a good mind for it. So we're really, really pleased with the progress she's made in the last several years. A couple years ago, we had a comment that we made really too many adjusting entries, but we've seen improvement. We've really seen great improvement. So that's great. There's some people that it just clicks, and I think she's one of them. So, and I'll stop there and try to answer any questions for you.
Well, I have a side question that I was instructed to ask. Back when I asked the group, nobody did answer. Why are loans that are payable to us through the revolving loan fund, why are they considered liabilities?
They're not. They're actually, so you have notes receivable up at the top, up under assets, $56,808. Now, and you also have, if you look at the little summary sheet, the fifth line down, those are notes receivable for $56,808. Now, you've made a bunch of loans since June 30th, so that balance will increase next year. So if you look at the restricted cash plus those notes receivable, you can't really see it, but the net position has been restricted out for that. So if you look below, your total net position is $975,000.
Yeah.
And one of the components of that net position, or equity, if you will, is gonna be the balance of that money you've restricted for loans plus the loans receivable. So they're not really liabilities yet.
So I realize that you're presenting the audit, but on our financial statements, we show them as a liability.
Let me take a look.
Yeah. long-term liability?
I think that's really. That is really equity, that is not really a long-term liability. I think yeah, so assets are debits.
Sure.
And liabilities are credits, and equity is also a credit.
Okay.
So what it is she probably can't create additional lines under equity for those loans.
Because of the limitations of equipment?
Exactly. So that's probably what it is. If she could and she probably wants to track each one of them separately.
Sure.
Would be my guess. That's creative accounting. But that would be my guess.
Okay.
That's really equity, yeah.
He told me.
It's a good question. For a second, I was like, oh, what is it? Not in my books, but what we do is we group those, I'm sure, when we do the audit, as equity. But good question. Really good question now that I see the balance sheet.
Cause I had never been asked before, so, well done.
I'll stop and answer any other questions you might have.
Mr. Chairman, what we'd ask is for a motion from a member of the board to adopt the audit, as presented by Corbin today.
Do we have a motion relating to the audit?
I move we adopt the audit as presented.
Second. We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and I think I left everybody business cards. If you do have questions later on, don't hesitate to send me an email or give me a call. Thanks.
Members of the board, I should have said this at the top of the meeting, but I did not. Jessica asked me to share with you, she had to have her daughter put in the children's hospital at Carillion in Roanoke. She's got double pneumonia, so that's, she would have been here otherwise, but, they're gonna be there a little while, it sounds like. So she asked me just to share that with y'all.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is our staff report.
Alright, so you guys should have a copy of my staff report in your packets. One of the first things I wanna note, it's not listed on here, but we did finally execute the Dutchess Dairy Performance Agreements. That took a little while, from the state, but we've got signatures on those, and the county's working to get the local, grant award check cut next week, and then we'll get that out to them. They've already started construction on their new coolers, but this will allow them to expand production, or increase production, so. They're excited, we're excited, and, we'll be working with them to hopefully find other ways to grow, as we work through this grant process. We talked last time about Pepsi reaching out to us about water rates with the town, and we helped facilitate a meeting between the, town administration and Pepsi's government affairs team, the Virginia Beverage Association. So right now we're waiting for a formal request from Pepsi to address, some of their concerns and, potentially make a proposal or an offer. But we'll keep you guys up to date on that one. Under the, 140 South First Street property, we've got so we were not awarded the Tobacco Commission grant for $400,000 that we had, been asked to apply for. So we're making some adjustments to the plan. We've got a contractor that we think is probably gonna be willing to do the work for us. We're waiting for a final proposal on that, but have submitted a brownfields grant as all of this is happening. We've already had phase 1 and phase 2 along with lead and asbestos testing done. That was prior to purchasing the building, but we did find asbestos on the roof. I guess Modern Day Roofing did whenever they came to start doing the work. So the roof replacement is already funded, and we have been awarded money from DEP through the brownfields program to remediate the asbestos. As they approve that, I'll copy it here. As they approved that award, they asked if we wanted to ask for any additional funds for any additional work. So we'll be reaching back out to them or to the folks we anticipate doing the work in the building to see if there are any other studies or any other remediation, activities that might need to occur that we can go back and max out, this brownfields award. Every dollar matters. I'll jump down to the bottom of the report. The Virginia Economic Developers Association had their winter membership meeting right after we had our last board meeting. David and I attended that, in Richmond. Lots of good conversations, programming, preparing us for this General Assembly session. We've also had several calls, both for the entire membership, about the public policy, expectations, for this session. We also have, weekly public policy updates, for board leadership. You guys have a copy of the public policy platform, and this doesn't address specific pieces of legislation. It more so identifies what the organization's interests are and how we would like to see them addressed. So whenever we do get asked throughout session to support or oppose a bill, we always look back to our public policy and direct any of those requests in that way. The board officers will meet on specific legislation, decide how that needs to be addressed. We've got lots of data center bills that have been introduced. Of course, right to work has been a concern, maintaining that status. So we've got the full platform included here, but the last 2 pages are a one-sheeter that gives some more statistics on economic development and the role that plays in bringing revenue into the state, as well as job creation. But this past Tuesday, I guess Tuesday and yesterday, I was at the General Assembly for our legislative engagement day, and visited all the legislators that are in Region 1. So that's up to us, Bland, Carroll, Grayson, Galax, Washington, on down to the tip.
All the way to Lee County.
Yeah.
Caswell, yeah. So, we visited with all the representatives in Go Virginia Region 1, and talked to them about some of the priorities that JIDA has, that support business growth throughout the Commonwealth. It is early in session. Session began last week, so we're still, and Friday, I think, was this Friday is the cutoff day for introducing legislation. So we're still coming through bills, trying to understand what has been introduced, and we'll continue to update you guys. We can probably do that on a weekly basis if you guys are interested. We have a bill tracker that gets developed to kind of show how legislation is moving through the committee and floor process.
You might have had one thing about there's one bill that we had kind of had conversations with partners other places about, and there's currently, as of last July 1, a prohibition for matching tobacco commission grants with Go Virginia money, which is a new prohibition. The exception was allowed to expire, so it wasn't an affirmative going after that money. So a delegate from Southside, I believe Danville or thereabouts, introduced a bill. We tried to find a Senate patron for it, and nobody bit yet. That's not to say that they won't bite, but that's really the only particular piece we've done any sort of engagement on before in the beginning of the session, at least from my perspective. I know there's a lot more going on.
If there's anything else that I didn't cover on the staff report, be happy to answer any questions. We'll again keep you posted as legislation comes through the General Assembly.
Mr. Chairman, I'll continue if nobody minds. I know we've got tend to site development a little later in the agenda, but I will start with a few different things, and first is more of a, enjoyable fact here. Today's a landmark day because it's the day that both John and Jessica were hired. Both were hired on January 22nd. John's was a little bit before Jessica's. He's been with us since 2015, and Jessica's hit her 5 years, and she joined in 2021. So, just wanna say how much I appreciate their work and how they keep our organization running as well as I think it does. And so, we would not be nearly as effective without them, so I just wanna share my appreciation for their hard work and tenure with the organization. So if you'll join me in a round of applause.
Happy anniversary.
And we put off, any work anniversary celebrations, with Jessica being gone. We didn't think that was fair to, celebrate without her. Last week, I was able to go to the Tobacco Commission winter meeting in Richmond. In good news, we were awarded a grant of just over $120,000 in site development funds. That would be to further due diligence on unoccupied land in Progress Park, specifically lot 1 and lot 32, but it doesn't have to be limited to those, but those were identified as the two probably next most marketable larger sites in the park. There is an opportunity, I think, that we have to match that 100% with no local dollars. That's my goal. If we can do 100% match with state dollars, we're gonna minimize the local investment as much as possible, keep the tax burden as light as we can on the people we represent. VEP does have a special pot of money that's fast deployment site development funding, and I think we've got a good shot there. I'll keep everybody apprised. We just got the award letter about, I don't know, an hour or two ago. Last week I attended a regional sort of all-day workshop that was in Lynchburg on emerging industries, but especially data centers and energy projects. I'd say it was well attended. I would imagine there's 125 or 50 people there. Subject matter experts from all over the state presented, and I did a small local economic development panel. Lots of discussion of collaboration and discussion of communities there. As I mentioned, the attendees were primarily from that region, but not exclusively. They were from Southwest Virginia, Central and Northern Virginia, and Richmond area, and everywhere. Just to talk about best practices and ways communities are thinking about going forward or not with these types of projects. Now, there was a fair amount of media coverage. Channels 7, 10, 13 were all there. So if you want to see a little video of that, it's available out there. Since our December meeting, we've had a couple RFIs, and I'll talk about one of them in closed session in a little bit. They're primarily though manufacturing, which is not unexpected. And lastly, I would add that yesterday, a reporter from WVTF, the NPR affiliate, was in town, and she came by the office, and we had a brief impromptu interview. As a follow-up to that, the company, Solus Arts, confirmed in a written statement to the radio station that there would be at least 50 jobs created for the project in Progress Park. So that will be published publicly, hopefully, as soon as that article goes live or that interview goes live. Obviously, that doesn't include any sort of contractors or non-W2 employees, and not the hundreds of construction jobs that we created over the next couple of years. And there is one more thing before I talk about lot 10. One of the presenters last week was Chris Lloyd, and he's, I don't know if global is the right term, but at least hemispherical, a prominent site selector, public affairs consultant based in Richmond. He's worked on the Honda Jet Eagle, Gulfstream, Continental Tire, Capital One, Hilton, and others. He's a former 2-time Assistant Secretary of Commerce and Trade under Governors Allen and Wilder. He shared some slides during his speech, and he allowed me to share some excerpts from that, and that's what I have printed for you today. I apologize for some of the small print. I can share the full size slides, certainly. Of note, I would think, is one, well, not the first page, but the second, well, the first page, we can start there. Slide number 2 talks about the potential growth of $3 to $8 trillion in this type of data center investment by 2030, and that's a national number. Second page, what drives data center growth. This was fascinating. Every home in the US, and there were 2 different numbers. One person said this has been updated to be 21 devices, but has 16 connected devices in a given home, average home. Netflix users daily stream over 203 million hours of content. 98% of Americans have a smartphone. Average Google Maps or Waze user is doing 4 to 5 hours of downloads with those apps. This blew my mind. Google Maps receives 200 contributions per second. And that means there's 200 million pieces of data that are uploaded every single day. Banking and travel, those are not surprises there. What you can see is, the next one is a map of data centers in Virginia where they exist currently. And then the next page, you will find that same stat but spread out over the whole nation. Huge concentrations in Texas, California, Virginia, Illinois to a surprising degree, New York, and I think those are probably the big ones. This was extremely enlightening. I'd like to find the original source for all this. This was inflation, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Weldon Cooper Center at UVA, I could be wrong, but inflation adjusted electricity prices from 2019 to 2024. Now, obviously, we're in 2026, so there's at least a year lag on the data. Blue indicates rates went down in a given state. Orange, red indicates rates went up. And that's net for all types of energy consumers. That was very eye-opening to me. The next page, however, slide 7, I think was the most eye-opening set of stats. Water consumption by year in the US, by industry. And of course, this isn't every industry, it's just comparisons. Agriculture generally in the US uses about 24.5 trillion gallons annually. Beef production, so outside of ag, but beef production specifically, 21.2 trillion gallons of water annually. This was tickled me a little bit. Golf courses, almost 550 billion gallons a year. Data centers use 17 billion gallons a year, and soft drink manufacturing about 12 billion gallons a year. Just put it in perspective. Nationally, that's certainly not specific to any project, of course, but that's national consumption. And lastly, I think that's lastly, yeah, or close to it. Slide 8 just talks about how some different localities have used the tax revenue to keep costs down for their citizens, but also improve services, school construction, affordable housing. A couple localities are discussing eliminating car tax completely with the revenues they'll be receiving. And the last page is just some trends, be aware of statements and what's happening sort of on a larger trend. Obviously, there's lots of conversation about assuring large users, not just data centers, but large users like manufacturing and so forth, pay their fair share for power. Discussions of reduced water consumption and increased reuse, and fortunately, the project announced for Progress Park is a poster child for using water very efficiently. Discussion of by right zoning and efficiency goals as far as it relates to incentives and so forth, but that's not really applicable to our situation here. As I mentioned, that's a sort of larger view. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. I thought it was very interesting. I appreciated it. I learned a lot that day. I was glad to be able to go. And let me check my report here. I think that's all I've got before the Lot 10 discussion, Mr. Chairman.
David, before
Yes,
you move forward
absolutely.
to that, if I could back you up to the Tobacco Commission grant.
Yes.
Is there a deadline on when those studies would have to be contracted for to use those funds?
No, and I got, the letter was, I haven't gotten this letter before, the one today, because they're using, and they pull money from different pots, no surprise. But because this is related to the sale of the tobacco bonds from back, the master settlement agreement with the attorneys general all over the country, that has to go through an additional approval by bond counsel, believe it or not, even at that level versus the however many $1 billion. So, that will push the process out probably another 2 or 3 months. But the other money will be accessible faster, so we can at least get going. I mean, my goal would be to start this up in the second quarter as early as possible. And if this goes through council, hopefully quickly, we can just keep on marching.
That's kind of where I was getting.
Yeah. And I would say probably realistically, if you start within a year, nobody asks any questions.
Okay.
I'd say that's common.
Thank you.
I do have, one handout, and it's not gonna tell you a lot, but it is illustrative of what I'm gonna be speaking about in just a minute. What you're gonna see here is, borings geotechnical proposal from an engineering firm. And after everybody gets it, I'll talk a little bit about why we have this.
Sure thing.
So y'all heard me talk probably at length about, the third-party review that was required by BDP for our big site development project, and despite our protestations, we had to go forward with that, and in the end, it might be okay, but a roadblock has been thrown up. Our third-party reviewer, while compliant with the letter of the code, oftentimes there are, I'm gonna say dispensations that are granted that allow this work to be done at the time of actual project construction development. This is not getting that, dispensation, and because it technically, to the letter of the code, requires that borings be done on the immediate site of stormwater management ponds. Despite the borings that were already done on the site, more borings have to be done. We wrestled with this for probably a month, trying to get them to pull back on it, and despite running that up flagpole of DEQ, they said, if they were wrong, you know, we could probably work around it, but the fact that it's technically right, and it is in the code, so, we recommend you go ahead and do it. We don't want this permit to get bounced by somebody, you know, up the chain, so. Understanding that, not having a lot of choice in the matter, unfortunately, but fortunately, we do have a surplus in the engineering budget that will pay for this. Viola Engineering has worked previously on a project, I guess a couple years ago, and they showed up quickly and did the reporting very quickly. They were the only firm available to do this, this quarter. The rest were gonna be potentially as late as summertime to get started. They're gonna be out there within a few weeks, according to their, project manager. So we've gone ahead and pulled the trigger to proceed with that. That's the only thing that's holding up our stormwater permit, which would then enable the construction, documents to be developed and so forth. We're at probably 98% of completion on our engineering project, except for that one right there.
Mr. Manley, just for
Yeah.
clarification, this is your lot 10 ungraded, unsold lot that we are.
Yes, yeah, this is lot 10, which is a 62.3 acre parcel across from Summit America, ungraded site. It has been targeted for development for some time. VEDP and the, Go Virginia and the locality are jointly funding the engineering work, and then ultimately construction that would take place. You know, we were hoping to get that sort of kicked off this spring, but obviously we've been throwing up a roadblock of a couple of 3 months. That being said, we want to proceed as quickly as possible. Without ready sites, we're not competitive for anything. And, so anyway, it was, unexpected when, you know, our contractor worked very closely to see if we could work through this without having to do it, but it ended up being,
What's the exceptional cost?
$30,000. Fortunately, we had saved almost 50 with the engineering, so we will have saved maybe $20,000 instead of 50 in this case. The fact that they could get out, the cost was comparable to the other people that could do it. It was the matter of getting out to the site quickly.
Right.
And the fact that they worked in Progress Park before was helpful. They knew sort of lay of the land, as it were, out there from previous experience. So they're Harrisonburg and Winchester is where their offices are.
What are they looking for on these voids or something?
Yes, basically, and it's more about, it's not even the site, it's more about regionally the existence of karst topography, which we all know, there are caves around here, there occasionally are subsidence areas that appear, or that maybe have been there for dozens of hundreds of years. This just is designed to say, these sites as designed are not gonna fall in on themselves, basically.
And even drilling through there, you still may hit it.
Oh,
We drilled where we built our pond, it's still filling in. And it was, okay, you wanna spend $50,000 to drill more holes or fill it with concrete? And we filled it with concrete.
so the last time we used them, Mr. Angles, was for, y'all remember the STS project perhaps? It was the automotive, supplier. And they had identified the eastern half of lot 1 as the target area. And we had geotech done sort of all over it, the environmental stuff done all over it. We needed to go a step further. They wanted, their engineers and their folks that advising them wanted some more geotech done on a particular parcel. These are the people that showed up and did it real quickly. So they did electro-resistivity testing and some more borings, and in that case, not a thing was found. Now, again, you can go 4 feet over there and there might be something, or 10 feet over there, but that's because the regulations require it on the spot of the pond, for lack of a better term. That's where we are.
So the test sites are gonna be within the dashed red sort of ovals, is that? They
A
have
little bit yellow-green dots.
A little bit.
They look like targets, kind of.
Oh, I see them
You
now.
see them?
Thank you.
It took me 5 minutes to find them yesterday,
I
so yes.
was even having trouble reading the legend, I'm so sorry.
Well, I should have done this on bigger paper, but I
That's
was
okay.
not thinking.
Gotcha.
So everybody has blessed this plan, and it will enable us to get the permit issued. It just is a step toward that. So let's see, what else I got on lot 10 here? I think that's it. The permitting work to do all this was done about Halloween, so the review was, I'm gonna say November, December, mid-December it was identified, and holidays certainly slowed communications back and forth down, especially with DEQ, but we addressed it one day last week when I was on the road, and the advice was that you just gonna have to do it. So anyway, not a huge roadblock, but it's a bump that we didn't, wish or anticipate. And that's all, unless y'all have questions on the lot 10 site development project in Progress Park.
The next item, new business.
Mr. Chairman, we've got just 2 items we want everybody to put on their calendar, if they would. Our annual tenure awards, and as y'all probably recall, that's where we celebrate businesses in increments of 5 years, being in Wythe County. That will be held on April 23rd. Many more details to come on that. But the annual golf tournament, the Business Appreciation Golf Tournament is on the 21st of May, which is the standard Thursday, it is every year. So, at Wythe Golf Club. And, we have had the benefit of our regional organization partnering with us and others in the past few years to help do all the lift as it gets started, and that's always appreciated. And I think, thank you. I made a note on my paper, but I didn't even read it. Statement of economic interests are due at the end of the month, or well, maybe technically beginning of February. If you haven't done those, we can help you get a copy that you need, if you need to fill it out. If you have done it, just make sure it gets to the town clerk's office before I think it's the 2nd of February. I have never done one. I'm not gonna say that somebody might tell you different, but in the past I have done digital signatures.
I got mine done, I think.
Okay. They'll tell you if you haven't.
Be sure you put your name on every page.
Yes, yep. Mine's been rejected for that very reason.
And Brandy should be following up with an email that has a fillable form if you guys, Brandy.
She does?
I think it came out today.
Yeah, I think she should have
Brandon
sent it out.
Jones.
In the past, they asked us to do the paper form, and now they're allowing, I think, digital. Yeah. So, thanks, John, for that reminder. And I think, Mr. Chairman, unless y'all have questions about anything we previously discussed, all that's remaining is, discuss a couple items in closed session.
Mr. Chairman, I move the board of directors of joint IDA with county in closed session pursuant to the Code of Virginia, section 2.2-3711A5, discussion of perspective for expanding business or industry. Project Arlo, Project Spartan.
Would you add, Project Gateway to that, please?
Also Project Gateway.
And Project Forge.
And Project Forge.
Thank you.